We analyzed the capacity of this entire area with a technical transportation team. We ran our proposed designs through the city model because we knew that if we just said you should do this, they would say, okay, someday maybe. But if we said we have done the pre-CEQA transportation analysis, we have the numbers, we know that we will not blow the level of service at these intersections, and here's a proposal for how to do it. Having done the city's work for them to a considerable extent, they would at least be in a better place to start a meaningful implementation conversation. And again, we can make better places in the process. There's the existing Sloat and Skyline intersection at the bottom. It's the worst intersection in San Francisco. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that. We propose a modern roundabout design that is safer for all users and also will move a lot more traffic instead of having a bunch of sort of pork chops and really confusing configuration there. And then finally on the open space side, this is the current condition south of Sloat. Really just kind of a forgotten leftover condition with concrete barriers and people parking right on the eroding bluff. Imagine that as the new Land's End, the new Chrissy Field, on top of coastal protections that protect our water quality. And then also just some images from the north end of Ocean Beach, the part most people are familiar with. There's really opportunities to make that work better for all visitors as well, to provide some basic amenities, to provide some pedestrian safety, and to make some key trail connections for everyone, but in particular for those with limited mobility, the disabled who currently have to wander across dunes and piles of sand to make the connection from the promenade to the trail. So we're not neglecting that part, but we have been driven primarily by the erosion issue. I think I've touched on all this stuff, but basically big picture, I think the reason that this has worked and been so successful is because we were able to bring those consensus building, communicative, convening tools in a place that before had been a much more technical conversation. That planning and design are intrinsically multidisciplinary and interjurisdictional. We actually get off on the complexity of many, many different layers in interaction. And again, I think an ecosystem is a great model for how to think about the elements of an urban setting. And finally, just being optimistic and being solution-driven. Designers have to present design. You have to do something. That's the starting point. So we are predisposed to thinking about what the best possible outcome under the existing conditions might be. With that, I've already gone far too long, so I will hold it there, and thank you very much, and happy to take any questions or discussion.
You said something that kind of, I didn't totally understand. I wonder if you could illuminate a little bit. Doing a project is the opposite of planning for climate change, and I'm just curious if you would get into the weeds a bit on that.
So, what I mean to say is that most of our sort of regulatory and funding mechanisms are aimed at a one-time action, a capital project, so that we deliver a thing. And so if you're going to review a proposal under CEQA or NEPA or the Coastal Commission, you're going to submit a project description, a date of delivery, a cost estimate, and the sort of machinery and apparatus of project delivery is kind of organized around that. So if you're going to build a freeway, or if you're going to build a seawall, or if you're, or you know, we don't have to put it in negative terms, if you're going to build a visitor center or a garden. But it's a thing, and it's a one-time thing. And so you put it in the capital budget, you run it through CEQA, you run it through NEPA, you get approval, boom, you execute, it's done, and then it's the maintenance people. Right? Adaptation is about looking at a long-term process that has a lot of process of change, that has a lot of uncertainty in it. Understanding what the most likely direction is, like we have a pretty good idea of what sea level rise will do at Ocean Beach, for example. We've done a lot of technical modeling and so forth. And yeah, the farther out you get, the more uncertainty in the projection. And a lot of that uncertainty is not just the science, it's like, what will the people do? Will we stop doing what we're doing or not? And so to plan for that kind of moving target is a very different mindset, that you're thinking about many, many steps, and showing those kind of axon views of like phase 0, 1, 2, 3, et cetera, is kind of a way of thinking about, we're not just showing the end state. We're showing what we can do now, what we'll do later, what we'll do when we meet certain triggers or thresholds. So part of the engineering exercise was how close can we get to that pipe? So that's where someday we will build some kind of structural protection, but we don't need to do that until the toe of the bluff crosses a certain trigger point. So we establish that trigger point, and then if it happens next year or if it happens in 20 years, we know what the action will be as a result. The problem with that approach, which I think is an awesome approach, and in resource management, we talk about it as adaptive management or just climate adaptation more broadly. The problem is that the structures by which we deliver projects, the CEQA process, the NEPA process, the Coastal Commission process, capital planning processes, permits, et cetera, are organized around the sort of single project delivery mode. And I think we need to develop, I think our institutions need to develop systems that are better suited to that adaptive way.